All right. Speaking of liars, did you see the politician that was going and try her? She's running on the fact that she's going to make the minimum wage $50 an hour in
Yes,
California.
I heard. That's just
Who
so
is that? Who
silly.
is that? She's not going to do it. She's just full of
She's
it.
in the
But
Bay Area, I think San
Min
Francisco.
all
And
minimum
that's the
wages
whole,
do is cut young people out from working. I mean,
well, and here's an example. Like in the early 90s in Arizona, you could do the minimum wage, right? You could have a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, beer money, and have fun. You
yeah,
come here right now, if you're making 50 or 60, you got 3 or 4 roommates and you don't have I mean, it's ridiculous. And that you can, I don't know. I bet you we could look at the increase of minimum wage in certain areas and then link to inflation. Because if let's say they do this $50 an hour, then that'll be minimize everything. And then your hamburger at McDonald's right now is like ridiculous, like $7.
they'll just
It'll be
move out
like
of the
13,
state, or they
14.
move. They'll just
So it
move out.
doesn't do anything. It doesn't really, it actually makes the issue worse.
Mhm.
These are entry level jobs meant to give you this structure of a work environment to catapult you into something different. This isn't, and it's just, but it's such a simplistic way to look. Well, if
Yeah.
everybody got paid $100,000, well, then there would be no problems.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
what the hell?
Is this
No.
even something people are wanting? I don't really know anyone
I don't-
that's interested
She
in raising the minimum
was
wage.
There are a
Right,
few
this
people
is-
that think this way still,
Okay.
But
but not many.
I know what you're talking about, and for the most part, everybody's like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Basically,
Does anyone really
minimum
expect
wages-
to live off of minimum wage anyway? I mean, I wouldn't expect minimum wages for like high school students and that come, college. So you're doing it part time, and then it's not really a career job at minimum wage. So I don't really understand that.
Minimum wage is a form of price control. It's
Okay.
basically the government sticking their finger in other people's business instead of letting the free market operate as it should. I don't know about you guys, but when I grew up, I started my paper route when I was 7 because you were supposed to be 10, but I lied.
And not abiding by the rules again.
Because exactly
Liar.
like usual. But anyway, yeah, but I mean, I had a paper route all my childhood. I mean, and I had odd jobs. I was working from the beginning, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to do that. And I'm sorry for kids today that don't get to have that
Oh,
opportunity.
I did the same thing. I sold worms in Maumee, Ohio. I would go out to the golf course when they watered and then take the worms, and then I would sell them for 68 cents a dozen. This was at like 12 or 13.
Right.
And then I would shovel people's driveways, mow their grass.
Yeah, I did my own lawns.
And it's just because we didn't have a lot of money. And if I wanted cool clothes, I'd have to,
Do something.
I had this much allocated. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, if I want those stupid Nike shoes, I
Right.
hate them now, but I liked them as a kid.
Yeah.
Then I did all this work to get the Nike shoes, and then people made fun of me because it was the wrong color. And I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Exactly. But I don't know. When I was a kid, I used to go around to all the neighborhood and I would knock on everybody's door and it's like, oh, it's you again selling something. So that's just how
Oh,
I
I'd
was.
be
I was
like-
always out there
And then
selling something.
I would TP people's my neighborhood.
you got
and
paid
then
for that?
I was
No,
gonna
I
say,
did.
how did you get
I
into
did.
this?
I did to go. I went up there like
He was a
oh
TP
my
hitman.
goodness. No, I would take the toilet paper down at a price,
Oh, I see.
and I would blame it
That's
on somebody
extortion. You're like a
else.
mafia.
Oh,
guy.
wait,
That was bad. I only did that once.
Gee, it'd be a shame if you had toilet paper all over your
No,
house.
actually, what I did is we did it, and it was this sweet old lady, and she was out there with a broom, and I'm like, I felt so bad, and she was a mean old lady because no one could cross her. You couldn't take a shortcut through her yard, so that's why we did it. And then the next day, she was up there, and I got to talking to her, and she was the nicest lady forever. Then I shoveled her stuff
There you
for
go.
free because I felt like
Nice.
such an.
So you aren't such a bad
Yes.
guy after all.
You just had
I
bad
wouldn't
friends.
say that. I redeemed myself when I'm caught. So
But getting back to what I said earlier, Jeff, I said
Yeah.
that, minimum wages of any kind, whether it's zero, whatever the number is, it's a form of price controls, and all price controls have ever done is they create black markets. they create, the people working under the table. And boy, have we got a lot of black markets. Think of all the illegals that have been moving. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm getting into
No, that's
stuff
okay.
you
That's
might
okay.
not like.
Well,
But I mean,
even-
it's
even
all
with-
about black markets with these people because they want to have cheaper labor.
even with that, like, let's just say you were one of the people that snuck across the 8 million or whatever.
Mhm.
They don't even have work permits. What
Yeah.
the hell are they supposed to do? It's
Exactly.
ridiculous.
They're
And
taking
like
the
you
jobs
said,
our kids should have.
there's an underground thing that how are they going to survive? It's cruel and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, well,
At
Hey,
least
it's-
allow them to work.
I had an interesting thing happen. You know how they give these illegal immigrants credit cards and they can travel across the country and all this. Well, I had one come up to us in the parking lot at the doctor's office, and it was really interesting. This is why I don't think if somebody's funding all of these illegals coming over here, I don't think it's going to work. This
It's
guy,
NGOs.
wait,
it's a
listen
lot
to
of
what happened.
churches.
Listen to what happened. He came up and he saw us taking David, the handicapped kid, and stuff like that. He came up and he started giving us money.
See, they let them.
He was crying. He was crying. He's like, I'm like, I know you're here trying to destroy this country, and I know you're feeling guilty,
No.
but you don't need to give me your money. Go and ship
Just go
yourself
home.
back. He came here. He started having remorse. He's like, I'm
That's
taking
good.
this money, and he's got handicapped kids, a nice family. He started having remorse, and he started giving us money. He didn't speak a word of English, but I spoke a little Spanish. It was
Well,
so funny.
how
I was
about-
like, oh my gosh, they're feeling guilty for coming across the border now.
Well, how about
Everybody understands
he-
justice.
how about this?
I think
He
so.
that person saw the opening that was handed to them on a silver platter by the current administration, and they
Mhm.
took it.
And they regretted it.
And then he's here, and he's a good-hearted person, but
Yes.
they were told, come in, come in, come in. And there's NGOs saying as such, right?
Mhm.
I can't say if I wasn't in that situation
Yeah, I don't
that I
blame them one
wouldn't
bit.
try to do it. It's not, but, and I mean, probably really good natured and wants to help out, but like, let me go to what's the plan after they get here? If you're not, they can't
Yeah.
get work permits. This is cruel and ridiculous.
Yes.
It's flood the system, and then the cartels are making money, and
Yeah.
then they're indebted to them. I mean, there's got to be a better way.
You bet.
There's a lot of elections going on around the world this year. I can't remember the numbers. Trying to look it up.
Nice
but
segue.
even Putin is up for re-election. I mean, all around the world.
Let me predict, he's going to
Yes.
get in.
I don't know. Yeah, he's a shoe in. When you're a dictator, it's very easy to win elections repeatedly. But question. Well, I'm not going to ask who you're voting for, but how many elections are there going on? We got the Senate in the United States alone. Senate, House. Greg, do you know
It's a
how
big
many
year.
seats are up? What?
Well, the Senate's always a third. Every 2 years, a third of the Senate seats are up for election. So they have a 6-year term.
Okay. Yeah,
that
but
means-
all the states are all right. So the
But
Senate,
not
so
every
the House-
state, but most states, have.
Yeah, some overlap though, aren't they? They're not all.
It's
held the
looking
same.
like the Senate's going to go to the right. House
Oh,
will
yeah,
probably
absolutely.
not go. It probably will go to the Dems. Now, the presidential,
I don't agree with
depending
that.
on who's in, unless the Republican wins by 7 points or more, there's no way they're getting in my humble opinion.
There's no
Greg,
way
you
who's
don't
getting
you don't
in?
agree?
I
way.
would say unless the Republican candidate has to win by 6 or more points, right? And this might be a conspiracy, and I'll fully disclose that, but it seems if the margin's within 4 or 5 points, something always happens where they stop counting, and then it takes 3 weeks to do it, and all of a sudden the other person.
But
That's
it
why
won't be
the-
within
the-
4 or 5 points this time.
It has to be 8 or more, and then you can't really come up with the numbers. And again, that could be controversial, that could be whatever.
Yeah,
but
they don't
it's
need the
just-
numbers everywhere. They just need it in the key areas. But I don't think it's going to be overcomable this time. And besides, I think we are going to start seeing cleaner elections. There's so more people are aware of voter fraud and all this kind of stuff today than they've ever been. And it's just
But
stuff is going to happen.
and you have to be careful talking about that because
I know.
with the specifics of it, like from my understanding, especially Arizona was very controversial.
Yeah, you're in
Oh
the
yeah,
center of
you're in a hot
Sure,
area.
it was challenged a bunch
it.
and it was struck down. We're not looking at it, but the actual details of the challenge were never presented. That's
Right.
what I heard. So it was like, oh, on the merit, it doesn't stand and blah, blah, blah. But the details of this weren't even looked at. Now, I could be wrong. Let the audience correct that.
There's
And I don't want to be
yeah.
a conspirator, but rather I'm an independent. So if you're left or right, if your guy wins today, it might not be that way in the future. That's why integrity is a must across the board.
Well, like Greg was
It
saying
doesn't
about the
matter.
sports, if there's a way to cheat or get around even by changing the rules,
It's
then
human
somebody's going to
nature.
do it. It's a game, and so they're going to find a way. People are always going to find a way. It may be within the rules or maybe just outside the rules. But as far as rigging elections and that, this has been going on from the beginning of the United States.
Yeah.
I remember writing. I was doing researching. It was decades ago, and it was in the 1800s. They were throwing parties and getting people drunk and then taking them to the election booths. I mean, there's always been shady stuff around elections ever since its origins. So to think that it's all,
It would be
just
nice.
clean spotless is pretty
And
naive.
each state can make up their own rules.
Yes,
And
and
if
that's
they
probably
do,
important. Yeah,
Why
that's probably
wouldn't you
important.
exploit that? Right?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you mail in? Why? I
Exactly.
mean, that's the way it is.
That's right.
It would be nice if we could have a system that somehow encouraged people who didn't want to be politicians to step up and do their duty. If they saw it as a form of duty, because, I'm an upstanding person and I don't really want to do this, but, I'm needed, so I'll do it. Like person going to war, I don't want to fight in a war, but I'll do it because I'm standing up for my country. If that was the motive, we'd have a lot better quality of people. But unfortunately, the system is set up, if you will, to encourage people who are narcissistic and people who want to
100%.
make a
You would
career
have to
out of
be
this to
out of your mind
these
to run
positions.
for any position.
And
Out of your
so-
mind. You would be attacked relentlessly, depending on
Yeah,
what
that's-
ideological.
Not out of mind. You could be you really love your country. I mean, you could say the same thing about
But
a
you-
soldier
you-
out of their mind to run with a gun towards another battlefield.
No,
full of guns.
understood. But you're going to get so much heat and
Oh, yeah.
so much.
Oh, yeah.
I'm asking the question,
Absolute-
how do we attract people like that? The best people, if it were the best people, are clearly not running. They're not even in the game because they don't want to be.
Well, how would you define the best person?
Well, like
What
I
does that
said,
mean?
someone of integrity who has served his community and country well, whose motives are to make the country a better place and for his family and so on. And all politicians say that's what they want, but
Yeah,
you
let's
know,
say that
that's
sounds
not
like
their
what they all say.
motivation. Their true motivations are far more narcissistic and egotistical than what they would say. So it's hard. I don't know, but that's what I would
But even
define.
if you are genuine, the
Mhm.
machine is going to eat
Exactly.
you up relentlessly. You, your
Exactly.
family, anybody who's ever known. There will be false articles written on. There'll be.
we don't reward the right people. You're
And
right.
yeah, that's why it should be part-time like it was initially.
The media
And
has
you
a
don't
lot
have
to
to
do
be
with
in
it.
DC the entire time. It's part-time. You're with your local constituents, but
Well,
it's just the machine.
We're more likely to get those kinds of people at the local level, which is why I have always advocated for, we want to put government governs best, which governs least. That's my principle. We want to have as little federal government as possible. We want them protecting our borders and giving us an army when we need it. And that's about it. Other than that, federal government, maybe coin money, but even that. they're doing
and
a
that's
terrible
the
job
other
at.
thing. All
And then the state
politics-
government do only what they absolutely have to do at that level. And then the local government should handle the vast majority, and frankly, the families should be what should have the most autonomy. That's
but
how I would like to see the
theoretically,
world run.
that
I'm
would
just
be
saying,
a
that's the
wonderful way.
principle. So you're going to find
Understood.
those people at the local level more than you are at the higher levels, is my point.
Yeah, and all politics are local, right? So you're not this whole federal stuff has little of. I mean, if you have to change, you got to go to the school boards. You have to elect the people. You have to be. But a lot of people, they just get caught up with the kabuki theater of the federal crap,
Right. Yep.
where the local gets buried over,
Right.
and that's
See,
a bulldozer as
That's
well.
an education thing. It's a mindset thing. It's not easy to change, but that's what needs to happen.
It seems to me what I have learned from the past 4 years, kind of going all over this, is the Secretary of State position seems to be a very important one that most people never thought of, because that's the one that's at the center of making sure the elections are running smoothly in the state. And
A bunch of
so-
secretaries of states are criminals.
yeah,
One in
well, yeah. So
Minnesota
I
sure
think
is.
I think other people realize the vulnerability of that position. So if they're really looking to improve integrity in the country and at the local level or the state level, that's the role to fill.
Yep.
If you can get in, because those states that have the Secretary of State, the elections are already all
And
screwed
then
up. So it's kind of
typically,
hard
Exactly.
they'll run for governor as our Secretary of State here in
to.
Arizona did.
Yours is such a strange story out in
And-
Arizona.
and-
Yeah.
well, the whole
Florida's
thing
an
is like
interesting one too.
when they're
Florida.
dumping millions and millions and millions at the local level or at the state level to get these people elected, it all feeds into the national thing. And then when you're getting that much time to basically, you can run an ad in any state and even in the federal elections that could be easily debunked lies. And you
Yeah.
can run this political ad with no on either side, and maybe it's just insane to me.
Hey, if you like these kind of conversations and you'd like to see more, click like and subscribe to our channel. And if you're at the computer and you'd like to hear the whole podcast, click right here.